Hello, this is Donald Jenkins, your Master Purpose Development Coach, CEO of the Purpose Development Institute in Atlanta, Georgia. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in the Truth Behind a Dysfunctional Leader presentation. And I hope that you have a pen and piece of paper to take copious notes, because within the next 15 minutes, give or take a few minutes, I'm going to try to communicate to you the value as to why it's important for you as a leader to understand the insight that I'm going to be sharing within this particular presentation. And I want to start with something that's extremely powerful that we learned here at the Purpose Development Institute through research and working with our clients. And it's going to set the tone for what I'm going to be unpacking in this particular presentation. And that is that the power of a leader is hidden in the ability to close the personal growth gap. Now, I'm sure that you will probably agree that there are many things that leaders, begin to build their power upon, whether it be their credentials, whether it be their role. But we've learned that the power of a leader is hidden in their ability to close the personal growth gap. That's right. Every leader, every person within your organization, they have a personal growth gap that must be closed. And when a leader can exercise power over closing that gap, then they can exercise power on connecting with the people that they are leading. And we found this to be true with one of our clients in regards to the climate, the culture that they had created within their plant or their facility in regards to the management and how management treated the employees. Well, anyway, they came under union pressure because the management didn't understand the value of being able to connect with employees in regards to closing that gap. So not closing the personal growth gap increases the risk for gaps in how you build productive relationships. And I want to make sure that I put emphasis on that if you don't understand how to close the personal growth gap or even recognize what the personal growth gap is, then it's going to undermine your ability to build those productive relationships within your organization as well. So just a little short case study as to, some of the work that we've done, over the years in how we help our clients understand this. And there's another organization, University of Alabama, some of their top executives and athletic director. And one of the things that we consulted with them on, and that is that hiring the best talent in the world is not a guarantee that your organization is minimizing the risk related to closing personal growth gaps, because many times the emphasis is on hiring the best talent. If you can bring the best talent within your organization, but it still does not guarantee that you're closing that personal growth gap. Because when you take a look at the personal growth gap, these are things that do not appear on the resume. And that's the reason why it's important for you to understand the importance of this particular presentation right here. And that is the hidden truth, the truth behind a dysfunctional leader. And that truth is that every leader, they have a personal growth gap that has to be closed. So a little bit about who we are. This is my business partner, Dr. Lily Jenkins, was certainly responsible for a lot of the research, at the doctoral level. And we are a think tank with 35 years of experience working with leaders to leverage the strength that comes from purpose to close the personal growth gap. Because we learned in our research that if you're going to close that gap, it requires the strength that comes from purpose. And we're not talking about purpose in relation to your gifts and talents. We're talking about purpose in relation to how you evolve, how you become a better version of yourself. Well, that strength requires a specific skill set. And that skill set is related to how well we close that personal growth gap. So our research in the role of purpose in career advancement help us to discover the two layers of talent development. And it's extremely important for your organization to recognize that there are two layers to developing the people within your organization. And typically, many organizations focus on what we call the first layer that you see here on the screen. And the first layer is simply responsible for how we work together. And we know that if we're going to work together efficiently, we have to have better listening skills. We have to be able to provide empathy. Communications has to be at its best. We have to become team players. I mean, you get the picture. The list go on and on. Mentoring, leadership effectiveness, confidence, delegating, motivation. I mean, you have your own list, but as you can see, the things that we focus on for years when it comes to working together, this is what we call the first layer of work. But as you can see, according to the diagram, that there's another layer that has to be developed, and this layer is what we discovered in our research, is that there is a second layer when it comes to talent development. And the second layer is related to how we grow together. So in other words, we put a lot of emphasis on working together, and we put very little emphasis on how we grow together. Well, how we grow together, it occurs underneath the surface. It occurs where there are roots. And as you can see, the things that we've done for years above the surface, those things are great, but they come short in helping us understand how we grow together. And so let's unpack that. Let's unpack the importance of doing the second layer of work and those things that are related to the decision categories. Because under the second layer, here's what we do. We begin to scrutinize your decision categories. And there are 8 decision categories that are responsible for you becoming a better version of yourself. Those 8 decision categories are responsible for how well you use your soft skills, how well you show up at work to become a better version of yourself. So as you can see, this is extremely important. So the second layer is a blind spot in talent development. So in order to remove the blind spot, leaders must realize that underneath the surface of every culture are hidden risks that prevent individuals from growing beyond their personality. So we've done a lot of things with dysfunctionality profiles, but many people are struggling to grow beyond their personality simply because they're not doing the root work. It's the root work that requires or empowers us to grow beyond our personality. So at the root work, it requires a specific skill set, to deal with, as you can see on the screen, self-culture, the existence strain, and the process of growth, in which I'm going to unpack here. So with self-culture, that's a hidden risk within the organization. And if you don't understand how to develop that side of who you are, it's going to create unhealthy root system. Then we also have what we call the existence strain. In other words, people show up. There's a strain on how they exist in that space. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that strain, it shows up differently every day. Some days they come to work and they're feeling great, and other days they come to work, they're not feeling so great. So just depending on what's going on at work, depending on who you have to work with, that strain is going to vary sometimes throughout the day. So the existence strain is important. And also the process of growth. See, all of these things occur underneath the surface, and within every culture, these are hidden risks. In other words, if we don't put systems in place or do work at this level, then these risks are going to always be within our organization that we have to deal with. So without an action plan, all 3 will exploit weaknesses in the leader's ability to make decisions that are powered by purpose. And here's what happens when your leaders, or you as a leader, you're making decisions that are not powered by purpose. It's going to create unhealthy root system. And that's the reason why it's important to do this kind of work, because without doing this work, your unhealthy root system will increase the risk for behaviors that undermine the efficacy of first layer work. So you can see that your organization, you've been involved in many of these skill sets that you see here above the surface, empathy, listening, communication, being a team player, emotional intelligence. All right, we've been through these trainings, decision making. All right, we have problem solving. What about change management, strategic planning, diversity, equity, and inclusion? And what happens typically in an organization where you only do first layer work, all of these soft skills become just another check the box experience. In other words, we continue to do these particular trainings year in, year out. And individuals show up to just check the box, to just show that I participated in this training again. But the growth potential, the efficacy of what growth could take place in this area is being undermined because we're not doing second layer work where the roots are. See, we improve the efficacy of what goes on the first level by doing the second layer work. And that's the reason why it's important, because It's going to put you in a better position to clean out that root system. So every leader, including you have to have resources to clean out your root system. Because if the root system is not cleaned out, then typically what's going to happen is going to undermine the efficacy of first layer work. So leaders must know the difference between treating symptoms of poor soft skills versus treating the disease that attacks soft skills at the root. And that's what we've discovered here at the Purpose Development Institute. We discovered what's known as purpose deficit disorders. PDD attacks soft skills at the root. This is the reason why it's important to do this work, because the influence of PDD continues to allow those risks to exist within the organization. So simply put, PDD is basically the inability to inform decisions that are powered by purpose. That's the reason why those decision categories are important. These things don't show up on a resume, but we have a very powerful instrument of being able to collect that data to see exactly where you are or your leaders are within your organization as to their ability, to practice making those decisions that are powered by purpose. So the presence of PDD will also cause leaders to waste time and abandon growth potential. And that's important because time and growth potential are critical components for first layer work. So you can see that if you're not doing the root level work, PDD work, then that leader, is not going to put the kind of time into growing in diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're not going to be able to understand how to apply their growth potential to diversity, equity, and inclusion, listening, communication, leadership, all the things that take place above the surface. So this is the reason why it's important to do second layer work to attack PDD at the roots, because it's attacking the roots of soft skills. And that's the reason why we always recommend that every leader have an action plan. We call it a purpose fit action plan. See, purpose fitness doesn't take place above the surface. Purpose fitness takes place underneath the surface. So it's an essential tool for leaders who desire to improve how they lead. And here's the reason why. Effective leadership starts with an action plan for reversing the effects of PDD. So here's what happened. The effects of PDD, you can see it in every leader. They waste time and they abandon growth potential in regards to, applying what goes on above the surface. They're not putting in the time and they're not exercising or applying their growth potential in those areas. So what we want to do is we want to be able to reverse that so that now you can get a higher return on what goes on the first layer of work. You get a higher return on your investment. So you can see that it's essential to do second layer work if you want to improve the efficacy of what's going on the first layer. So effective leadership continues with hidden behavior health data for improving the efficacy of soft skills. We have one of the only solutions in the world where we're able to collect behavior health data, that give us a clear indication as to checking the heart of your leaders or you as a leader. Checking your heart to see if you have a heart to grow beyond your personality. See, we can provide that data to you now. It's typically we just do the personality profiles and everyone leave, understanding and it's a powerful tool. We leave with understanding who we are, what our temperaments are. But what about the data that's needed to grow beyond our personality profile? Because whether I'm a D, I, S, or C, I still have room to grow. And now we're able to collect that data, as to what that room to grow look like. And we're able to scale that over a period of time. So great leaders are active in going from a beginner in closing the personal growth gap to a master. And that's where you want to be as a leader. You don't want to remain as a beginner in closing that gap. You want to be a master in closing that gap, because here's the deal. If you can't close the gap within yourself as a leader, then it's going to be impossible for you to close the gap with the people that you're working with. And that's going to put you in a position where you're going to have to work smart and not hard. I'm sure that you would agree that it's more important, or it's better to work smart than to work hard. So this is the reason why having an action plan is going to be important, because it's going to give you an idea of what you're working with, so that now you can close the gap in leadership. You can close the gap in the people that you're working with in order to build productive relationships. So let's look at some testimonials here. This is one of our friends of the Purpose Development Institute, Mr. Nikos Moko Yohannes, co-founder of the Harvard School of Negotiations. And he wrote a very powerful book that I was a fan of for years called The Starting Point of Purpose, The Starting Point of Great Companies. And as you can see, he's also a consultant to some of the top CEOs. So after learning about our work, our PDD work on LinkedIn, here's what he said about PDD. He said, purpose deficit disorder is the greatest risk epidemic in our society. And I take it a step further and say that PDD is the greatest risk epidemic in your organization because you're doing all the things right on the first layer. But PDD is a risk that remains because it exists on the second layer. It attacks the root. It's not going to attack those things that you see on the first layer. It's going to go after the root. So this is the area where people need to be fixed. You know, just like Nico stated in our meeting, he said, I fix companies, but you fix people. Show me how to fix the leaders in my network. And that's what this action plan will help you understand. Will help you understand how to, number one, fix yourself. And then secondly, fix the people that you are working with. So it's extremely important. So here's another individual, Mr. Corey Thomas, Chief Diversity Officer of Douglas County CSB. And here's what he stated. He said, after administering and unpacking the Intuitive Growth Performance Assessment, remember, we're able to collect that data. Our executive team had a major breakthrough in understanding the behaviors that lead to unhealthy root system. Now they have a major breakthrough in that area, and that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to give you that major breakthrough. I just discussed them at the surface level now, but when you start creating your action plan, then you're going to have a major breakthrough of being able to identify those unhealthy root systems, because I promise you that there are a lot of people on your team. You know, the reason why they might have dysfunctions is simply because they have unhealthy root system. But if you don't know how to identify that, then how can you help yourself and how can you help that individual as well? So it's extremely important. So in closing, without a purpose fit action plan, you are leaving out an important body of knowledge for closing the gap with the people you are leading. And that's what we discovered. We discovered that doing the second layer of work, there's an entire body of knowledge that's required for removing dysfunctions out of a culture. And this is the reason why it's important for you to have an action plan, to get started building your action plan today. You don't want to continue to go to week after week, day after day, continue to think that you're solving the problem, and you're really not doing anything to close that personal growth gap. Because again, like I stated at the beginning, every person in your organization, they have a personal growth gap. And the last thing that you want to do is to remain a beginner in closing that gap. So that's the reason why I want to give you the opportunity to become a master, because a healthy root system produces happy leaders. Isn't that what you want? You want to be a happy leader, and you want happy leaders within your organization as well. So I'm going to extend the invitation to you. I want you to join the only community in the world for equipping leaders with eliminating the number one behavior health threat in leadership. You can go to purposefitme.com, and you're going to see our online course and how we are beginning that training process for individuals like yourself who want to go from being a beginner in closing that gap to becoming a master in closing that gap. And then you have an opportunity to, understand the value, creating your action plan. So take the Purpose Fit quiz to see where you stand on leading from a position of strength, because without closing that gap, you're going to lead from a position of weakness. But when you close that gap, you're going to be able to lead from a position of strength. So when you get to the website, make sure you click on the course content tab, and it's going to take you to another page, and you'll be able to answer 4 quick questions to see the value of building your purpose fit action plan. So you also can save on the investment by using this coupon code that you see on the screen, Purpose Fit Me Now 697. And if you want to have further discussions about how would this look within your organization, you can email me at donald@pdismart.com, and then we can set up a time to do a free discovery call and we can assess the needs within your organization and come up with a customized solution. So again, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to helping you and the leaders within your organization create a healthy root system by closing the personal growth gap. I look forward to hearing from you.